Hi, I'm Rick Schultz. Welcome back to Questions and Answers. Another question that we've had posed to us is, what should I do with in-wall wiring? We see that you offer a 10-gauge wire on our website, but what kind of, is the gauge size of the incoming wire on the electrical part important, or is it not? The answer is yes, it's absolutely vital. Making a really good audio system is all about creating the greatest amount of current towards your audio system as possible. Now, there's lots of things that we do when it comes to being able to talk about properly wiring a high-end audio system. And if you've never done that, I encourage you that that's probably one of the first things as an audiophile that you should do and that you should take very, very seriously. One of the things that a lot of people don't understand is what happens to contaminated energy. So when we're building a circuit and we want a nice, clean audio path, one of the things that is done in the power supply, for example, is to build a power supply that effectively cleans off any of the noise that the power supply or the incoming energy might have. Where do they put this noise? They put it to ground, okay? What do I mean by ground? Well, what I mean by ground is the same ground that you see here on our plug. That's the ground, earth ground, for the entire electrical system. And all the ground goes to that. Now, if we were to take our speaker cables and we were to unplug the ground from the actual amplifier, but we were to plug them in to the earth ground of your electrical system, they would work. They don't actually have to come back to the amplifier. The amplifier actually is just hooking that to ground. Okay, so you can disconnect your ground and you'll notice that your speaker stops playing, but the minute you take that ground and that ground wire and you ground it to anything, including sometimes the chassis itself of an audio component, you'll notice that the speaker starts to play again. So all it needs to do is be able to have a ground to be able to return energy to, and it starts to play. So the whole idea behind making a really good audio system is, one, to have a great ground. The other thing is that you want to have as much incoming power as possible. So right here we've got 4 designated incoming lines. Now this is a duplex, so it's a split receptacle. So this is actually on a separate circuit than the bottom one here. So if the breaker was to pop on this bottom one, it wouldn't affect the top because they're actually on separate breakers. Okay? You can see more of that if you go to our home wiring page. But if you were to bring in a larger wire, you'll lower the total amount of resistance for incoming power. And that makes such a difference in the clarity and function of all audio equipment. So what I recommend is that you use the biggest wire that you possibly can. If you've got an electrician that you know that is willing to get wild and crazy, put double-aught wire in. Put the biggest, craziest wire that you possibly can from your electrical panel to your audio system. Now, one of the reasons why you don't typically see this is because there's regulations behind how big of a wire you can actually put into an audio system. So we normally, in our BX department, we offer a 10-gauge, and we custom order sometimes an 8-gauge for people if they want it. And we can even go bigger than that. We've cryogenically treated and used our technology to be able to treat bigger wires, where instead of making it, we just source the best one we possibly can, and we treat it for you. Now, we don't offer that on a regular basis. If you're interested in something like that, come see us. But the whole idea is, even if you were to talk to your electrician and say, okay, what's the biggest wire you can possibly get me? What they can maybe do for you is use a really, really big wire and then create a junction box outside of where your actual outlets are. So instead of bringing in, let's say, 6 runs of really, really or smaller wire, bring in 1 run of great big wire. The cost will probably be even a little bit more effective for you, and bring that in and put it on a splitter, and put it on a junction box. And from the junction box, you can come out with a smaller wire. Again, your electrician is going to have to help you in order to be able to do this, and we'd be willing to help you too. But that's one of the answers to the question is, how big of gauge size should I be using and how big can I go? And the answer is you want to use the biggest gauge size that you possibly can muster. Use your imagination on how ridiculous you can get, and I find that the benefits that you get from these great big wires are just phenomenal. I think you really, really enjoy that. In fact, sometimes if you put a couple $1,000s into your home wiring versus another couple $1,000s into room treatment or into a new CD player or a different set of interconnects, sometimes that can be the most important and most overlooked part of an audio system. I'm Rick Schultz, and I hope that I've helped you a little bit here on Questions and Answers.